Through education and engagement, we can reduce the incidence of these diseases and protect our families and communities. The Mosquito No More campaign will roll out a series of public awareness initiatives, educational materials, and even community outreach programs. Stakeholder engagement is a key pillar, ensuring that government agencies, NGOs, private sector partners, and the public all play a role. Community-driven solutions will be encouraged, recognizing the vital role that neighborhoods and households play in eliminating mosquito breeding sites. And again, a special thanks to the European Union for funding and supporting this campaign. At this time, let us invite Ms. Christia Emmanuel, the Social Transformation Officer in the Ministry of Religious Affairs, to lead us in prayer, asking for guidance and success in this campaign.
I'd like to ask Catholics to sign yourselves. Heavenly Father, as we gather here to officially launch the Mosquito No More campaign, we thank you for the gift of life and the strength to face this day. Thank you for your kindness and your mercy. We pray for a clear mind and clear understanding, as well as a successful launch today. In your most precious name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Ms. Emmanuel. Please be seated. And at this moment, for the official opening remarks, we'd now like to call on the Director of Surveillance, Disease Prevention and Control of CAFA, Dr. Horace Cox. Please give him a warm round of applause.
Thank you very much, Madam Master Ceremonies. I seek permission to stand on the protocol that has already been established. And permit me to say, as a start, that is quite a soothing voice, and I appreciate it. And being in medicine and public health, I think at times it's good to have such a calm effort as we enter proceedings. So with that said, I would just like to say on behalf of the executive management of the Caribbean Public Health Agency, that CARFA is committed to working with the Ministry of Health, Wellness, and Elderly Affairs in executing its public health mandate, and of course, by extension, working along with key stakeholders such as those within the Ministry of Tourism, Ministry of Religious Affairs, as well as those within Ministry of Education. The reality is that in public health, it's often something that we don't know what is coming next. It's the greatest mystery in life. At one time, we were discussing COVID-19 as a pandemic. Another time, we were discussing Mpox as a public health emergency of international concern. Then we're concerned about vaccine-preventable diseases such as measles and rubella. And the reality is that the list never ends. So as public health practitioners, we need to apply those skills that we learned from a very tender age. And those skills include, how do we fix the puzzle? Because every day that we get up, we need to fix the puzzle. And the reality is that we never have all the resources that we need, and as a result, we need to ensure that we can be resourceful. And part of being resourceful is exactly what we can observe in the room, in that we need to network and ensure that we can leverage resources across different sectors in order to maximize efficiency. But the reality is that vector-borne diseases, we hear about it every day, every week, every year. And we ask ourselves the question, just why can't we just stop them? And human beings, as innovative as we are, we've tried different things over the years. For example, we've tried modifying the genes in the mosquitoes. We've tried sterilizing the mosquitoes so that when they mate, that is not successful. We've tried so many different things, from the very fumigation that you see with the fogging in the streets. But the reality is that we still have this problem on a daily basis. And we hear so many different factors contribute. For example, so many persons moving from island to island, climate change, et cetera, and you'll hear a bit more about those in the conversations to come. But the reality is that never mind what tools we speak about, at the center of everything would be us human beings. All right? We've realized that if we can modify our behavior, then it would go far away in terms of controlling these diseases. And as a result, many years ago, historically, technical people, we always love to sit in a room and we decide, mosquito-borne diseases, this is what we need to tell the population. And often we do not consult with them to inform what we put out there. So at times we say, oh, you need to empty your barrels. But then when you get on the ground, somebody says, but I don't have water that I can access. This is how I get water, right? So you're not really speaking to the issue at hand, and therefore persons dismiss it. In other words, the message does not resonate. And therefore, what we've practiced for many a time in terms of just engaging persons and sharing what we think they want to know doesn't quite work. Therefore, like everything else, this needed to be made a science. And a science means that we study it, we understand what are the different things that make you, when you get up in the morning, wash your face before you dress, etc., just to simplify it, right? And once we can understand what really drives certain behaviors, then we would know what to do to help you to improve on those behaviors. So to bring it back home, we have applied this approach to understanding how persons adopt different practices related to mosquito-borne diseases. And so, in 2018, there was a study that was commissioned, which is called a Knowledge, Attitudes, and Practices study. And that study would have allowed us to apply a robust scientific methodology to understand what is the baseline level of knowledge in the population about mosquito-borne diseases. What are the attitudes of people? Is it that they feel like this is not a risk? I can just get dengue and dengue will go away. It's a self-limiting disease. I don't get complications. And therefore, because that's their understanding, they don't take the necessary precautions because they feel that the family is not at risk, and on a personal note, he or she is not at risk. And so using that understanding, we have now attempted to coin a public education campaign to engage with the people of St. Lucia and to lift the knowledge level and to try to influence attitudes and behaviors through strategic actions. And that calls for wide consultation. As we can see, we have several members across different sectors here. And for us, of course, to tailor messages that they're culturally appropriate. All right, here we know that people speak Creole, here we know they speak English, right? And we have different sensitivities as you get into communities, and so you need to tailor it so that the message can resonate with persons. It is our hope at CARFA, and in conversation with the Ministry of Health, Wellness, and Elderly Affairs, that this campaign will be a success because for many reasons. One, soon enough, we'll have hurricane season. Number two, we can see what happens with the rains, all right? And so the reality is that we never know what will be next upon us. So we strongly believe that this partnership can go far away in terms of ensuring that we lift the knowledge level and ensure that persons are positioned to adopt the appropriate practices that we reduce the risk of transmission of mosquito-borne diseases. So I trust that, having heard that it resonates with you, that we all have a role to play, and the reason being that health alone cannot do it. CARFA alone cannot do it. But together, we can certainly make a very good impression in terms of advancing the efforts in attacking mosquito-borne diseases. So that's why we have education, tourism, as well as religious affairs, and Ministry of Health, Wellness, and Elderly Affairs, in hope that this partnership will stimulate others to come on board and that they can see what a difference it can make, and that ultimately we work for the benefit of those in the periphery by engaging with them and using our understanding of what drives their practices to inform how we tailor our messages. So with those words, I would like to welcome you to this session, and of course, it would be remiss of me if I did not stop to just thank the Ministry of Health, Wellness and Elderly Affairs for its continued commitment and support, CMO, as well as PSV in communication until late last evening, trying to streamline a number of activities. And we do recognize that the Ministry of Health, Wellness and Elderly Affairs, they have a number of commitments this week. Yet we have two high-level policymakers who are here with us, along with others in the audience who've committed to this because it's very important. All right? So let's not let that commitment go to waste. Let's use the opportunity to leverage the resources that are available and for us to advance this effort. And as Madam Chair said at the start, the reality is that we could not have done this without funding from the European Union, so we're very thankful for that, and we look forward to reporting successes of this in the near future. Thank you very much.
Thank you once again to Dr. Horace Cox, and of course, he is the Director of Surveillance, Disease Prevention and Control at CARPHA. And next, we would like to call to the podium Dr. Willie Dunbar, who is the lead consultant of the Mosquito No More campaign. So please give him a warm round of applause.
Good morning, everyone. Permanent Secretary, Madam, CMO, directors, and senior thank you. And senior sector representatives from health, education, tourism, and faith-based organizations, distinguished guests, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, bonjour, good morning. C'est vraiment un pile plaisir et un gros honneur pour nous devant vous aujourd'hui là pour commencement officiel campagne Mosquito No More. Un mouvement et puis en collaboration informé par la science et puis Wassini c'est en réalité à Mont Saint-Lucie. Nous avons créé une communauté et fait pour sauver la vie. First, allow me to extend my sincere gratitude to CORFA for the leadership and unwavering support in the Ministry of Health, Wellness and Elderly Affairs of St. Lucia for their vision, trust, and steadfast commitment to advancing public health in St. Lucia. Also, I would like to thank my fellow colleagues, Avriel Diaz, Ashley, David Cedeno, and also a great St. Lucian influencer who is working with us for the campaign. Her name is Swar Smith. We had a privilege of engaging with St. Lucians across the islands. And this campaign was not built behind closed doors. It was shaped by dialogues. We had great opportunities to visit several communities, several villages. We had to sit down with students, with churches, representatives, and with everyone in the community where we had to visit. So we thank everyone for that. Moi aussi, voulais mettre un accent ou lumière sur partenaires nous en éducation, partenaires nous en tourisme, et que tout le monde à la fois présenté ce jeudi. Il n'est pas juste symbolique et stratégique, il peut représenter le monde qui pointe devant, il peut représenter collaboration, et puis un bagage c'est tout important, le monde qui prend devant. From Wardney Bay, as I explained earlier, from Wardney Bay to Dennery, from Castries to Vieux-Fort, I think I can call myself a Lucian right now because I know it is your country. Our approach was simple but powerful. What works, for whom, and in what circumstances? We sought to understand not just what should be done, but what truly works in the hands of St. Lucians, in their environment, but also under their specific realities. Nous pas là pour imposer, nous croyons ensemble. nous faisons ensemble, nous passer en chaque consultation et visite. Il y a une commission qui est claire, moun set ici, ni pour koyo à dans mouvement ça. Yo ni pour point même, formally, et puis mener devant. Et puis c'est ça même qui fait. Because you will have the opportunity to see the materials that we have developed so far. Every training material, every poster, every message you will soon see, maybe in classrooms or on WhatsApp, here in churches, or read at hotel front desks, was developed with St. Lucians, using their insight, their voices, their priorities. The campaign we are launching today, Mosquito No More, is really a reflection of St. Lucia's realities and St. Lucia's hope. Nous savons que maladie maïgouin, yo pas juste problème l'hôpital, mais yo c'est problème santé publique là, yo c'est problème sécurité touriste, pour faire continuer l'éducation et stabilité sociale. Yo ka affecté population qui plus faible et yo ka pige système santé a. Section touriste et la vie c'est famille. This is why we have adopted a model that is innovative, intersectoral, and sustainable. The health sector will lead in community engagement. They will lead in prevention and health education. The education sector will cultivate new behaviors from the early age and knowledge as well. The tourism sector will protect not only visitors but also local workers, preserving livelihoods and national reputation. The faith-based sector will mobilize spiritual leaders and congregations to weave prevention into daily life. By working across sectors, we are building resilience into the fabric of St. Lucian society. This approach is not only strategic, it's historic. St. Lucia is setting a model for the Caribbean region by refusing to silo prevention into one ministry or one campaign. Instead, this is everyone's business. This is a community building, not just public health interventions. Jodia, c'est commencement pour 3 mois mouvement. Chaque caille, ni outils pour mouvement a dans tous les jours activité. Yo. Fait yo passer l'examen et fait yo pli meilleur chaque jour. Un bagage important, moi je l'ai dit, commencement c'est pas une phase qui a dormi. C'est plutôt un bagage et puis mouvement. Feedback zot, création zot, et puis manière zot ça prend devant, qu'il fait place pour entrer développement national. And I want to be very clear. This campaign will not end with consultants. It will not end with poster fate. It belongs to you, St. Lucian. It belongs to the ministries. It belongs to the schools, to the churches, to the hotels, and to the communities overall. As we move forward, let us remember that success will not be measured by only reduced mosquito counts. Although this is really important, it will be measured by how deeply these new practices take root. In a teacher reminding students to cover water tanks, in a hotel worker checking for standing water, in a pastor reminding congregants of their role and caring for their environment, in a family taking pride in keeping their community mosquito-free. Success will be measured by habits we build, the trust we strengthen, and the lives we protect. Chaque monde ici à Jodia, c'est ministre là, c'est directeur, c'est leader, en toute section, tout le monde pour communauté, zot pas seulement là pour assister meeting, zot tout c'est champion pour bon changement. Ensemble, nous savons faire Mosquito No More pas juste yon bagay nou sa di, mais yon réalité. Caille par caille, l'école par l'école, congrégation par congrégation, secteur par secteur, communauté par communauté. Together, we will build a healthier and safer St. Lucia for today and for generations to come. Thank you for your commitment. Thank you for your leadership. Thank you for your belief that together prevention is possible. Merci en pile. Thank you.
And I think we can give Dr. Dunbar another round of applause for that inspiring message, as well as appreciating the Creole inserts in his speech as well. So thank you very much, Dr. Dunbar. That was very inspiring. And at this moment, we call to the podium Ms. Juliet Sutherland, who is the Executive Assistant to the CEO, as well as a Business Development Officer at the SLHTA. Ms. Sutherland, please join us at the podium. Give her a round of applause.
Protocol having been established, ladies and gentlemen, tourism is more than just an economic engine. It is a human-centered industry that thrives on the health and vitality of our people and our communities. As we welcome guests from around the world, it is imperative that we maintain environments that are not only beautiful and inviting, but also safe and resilient from a public health standpoint. Vector-borne diseases such as Zika, chikungunya, and dengue pose persistent threats to both our population and our tourism economy. History has shown us that when we act in partnership with institutions like CARFA and the Ministry of Health, we can effectively respond to these challenges. Our collaborative efforts in the past, particularly during the Zika and chikungunya outbreaks, exemplify the power of cross-sector coordination, swift public education, and community-level action. Let us recommit ourselves to prevention, awareness, and interagency collaboration to ensure that St. Lucia remains not just a world-class destination, but a model of health security in tourism. A resilient tourism sector begins with resilient communities. Thank you.
And thank you once again. That's Ms. Juliet Sutherland, Executive Assistant to the CEO and the Business Development Officer at the St. Lucia Hospitality and Tourism Association. Thank you, Ms. Sutherland. And now we'd like to call on our Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Health, Wellness and Elderly Affairs, Ms. Jenny Daniel, to deliver the feature address. Please give her a warm welcome.
Thank you, Mistress of Ceremony. I would wish to stand on the protocol which has been established here this morning and to welcome all distinguished ladies and gentlemen here today. A good morning. It is my sincere pleasure to deliver this address on behalf of Minister for Health, Wellness and Elderly Affairs, Honorable Moses Jabatis, who I know would have loved to be here with us this morning, but unfortunately had another commitment, which was a little pressing this morning to attend to. So I will do my best to convey the message that I know that he would be happy for you to receive at this very inaugural event. I am reassured that the reality which I will share with you over the next few minutes is one that bears some familiarity to many of you, as you may recall the devastating sequel of outbreaks of chikungunya in 2015 and Zika in 2016. And I know that should I do a show of hands to ask how many persons in this room had either one or the other? Okay, people, keep it private. But I know that a lot of us were limping, many people were limping for a few months, after this sequel of events. Both occurrences have not only left indelible imprints on the health of affected individuals, but also on the national economy. Guided by the unshakable belief that the health of our island is the wealth of our island, we must be committed to developing robust and sustainable plans to mitigate the ever-present public health risks. As such, I am pleased to share with you that the significant investments continue to be made by the government of St. Lucia in collaboration with strategic partners to combat vector-borne diseases in St. Lucia. Over the past years, the Ministry of Health, Wellness and Elderly Affairs has observed that a large number of airborne disease outbreaks occurs in the Caribbean region every 5 to 7 years. This phenomenon is explained by the interplay of determinants of transmission such as climate change, high levels of inter-island travel, the presence of competent vectors such as Aedes aegypti mosquitoes, as well as undefined pockets of susceptible population. It certainly worries us that in the recent past, there has been an increase in the frequency and severity of these outbreaks. In fact, in the Caribbean, it has been widely documented that 2023 and 2024 have been consecutive record years for dengue cases, leading to increased hospitalizations and deaths. The details will surprise you. Just imagine that in 2024, there was a 200-fold increase in global reports of suspected cases of dengue compared to 2023, and a 400-fold increase over the 5-year average. Furthermore, forecast indicates that in 2025, cases will be close to those reported for the last 2 years. As if that were not enough, the increased circulation of dengue serotype 3 continues to threaten to cause more cases of severe dengue. Coupled with the risk of spread of Oropouche and West Nile across the Caribbean region, and the fact that we are fast approaching the start of the 2025 hurricane season, we must realize that the time to act is now. My fellow St. Lucians and colleagues and all, these facts should not give us any comfort. Conversely, they should convince us of the need to use the current public health context to instigate further actions that will bring meaningful impact. Combating vector-borne diseases requires a coordinated approach, multisectoral approach that is based on science and that is flexible in catering to the needs of the population at risk. Over the years, various actors have introduced interventions that combat mosquito-borne diseases in St. Lucia with varying levels of success. In 2018, the Caribbean Public Health Agency supported the implementation of a knowledge, attitudes, and practice survey, and several gaps were noted as requiring holistic regional strategy that addresses the concerns identified. Given the findings of the 2018 study and the appreciation of the strong relationship between knowledge and practices, the Ministry of Health, Wellness and Elderly Affairs, in collaboration with CAFA and with funding from the European Union, has committed to implementing this public education campaign to improve awareness of critical issues surrounding the vector-borne diseases. The campaign seeks to reduce mosquito-borne diseases through multi-sectoral collaboration, community-driven strategies, and sustainable public health education. To put the same in practical terms, the collaborative team has committed to using a realistic approach that includes identifying what works, for whom, and in what circumstances. As a permanent secretary of this ministry, I champion the need for a comprehensive and well-coordinated communication strategy to promote vector-borne disease prevention efforts. Therefore, the Ministry of Health understands the need to access multiple stakeholders across different communication channels, including social media platforms such as Facebook, YouTube, WhatsApp, Instagram, Creole media outlets, radio stations, and community meetings. These platforms are crucial for reaching vulnerable groups, including especially those with limited access to digital technology who still rely on traditional media. Enhancing social media presence and exploring new digital strategies, including localized and Creole-focused content, will be essential for improving the reach and impact of vector-borne disease prevention messaging. Together, we have identified the need for increased staff training in digital communication strategies to ensure that messages are engaging, culturally relevant, and accessible to all demographic groups. But where would we be without partnerships? While it is difficult to answer in the allotted time for this activity today, we can certainly appreciate that we need one and all to assist in advancing this effort. This is why I am truly pleased to note that the presence of colleagues and friends from other sectors, namely education, tourism, and religious affairs. At the Ministry of Health, we appreciate that the school system offers a key avenue for embedding vector-borne disease prevention into the broader public health strategy. The Ministry of Education oversees more than 100 schools and as well as several colleges and universities, which present significantly unique opportunities for integrating vector-borne disease awareness and prevention into the school curriculum. Schools in this context are not only educational institutions, but also serve as community hubs where students and their families can be effectively engaged in health education campaigns. Let us continue to consider novel ways of improving existing initiatives like Vector Awareness Week, school camps, and public health assemblies to provide structured opportunities for students and parents to engage in hands-on activities related to vector-borne prevention, such as identifying mosquito breeding sites and eliminating stagnant water. Incorporating vector-borne disease-related content into these activities will be instrumental in fostering a culture of health awareness among the youth. Let us consider briefly how far-reaching and positive such an experience would be. Moreover, the tourism sector is pivotal to our development, and it is imperative that we pool resources in a strategic way to advance in achieving common goals. I am optimistic knowing that the Mosquito No More campaign allows for a hands-on approach to practical learning and will help embed behavioral change at a young age. This campaign will also facilitate the integration of faith-based organizations in driving behavioral change within communities. Religious leaders, being trusted figures in many communities, can serve as key focal points for delivering health messages, particularly during church services, community gatherings, and special events. In summary, this campaign will support community-based vector control efforts through the development, implementation, monitoring, and impact assessment activities, starting with the pilot project in St. Lucia. The people of St. Lucia are thankful to CAFA and by extension, the European Union for the continued partnership in addressing health concerns and more particularly vector-borne diseases. Let us commit to meaningful advances. Let us commit to adopting good practices to reduce the burden of mosquito vectors. Together we say, mosquito no more. But I would not be representing Minister if I did not add the little Creole part. So, enfin, en finissement, nous tous ni pour travailler ensemble pour détruire les affaires maïgouin sala un pays nous. Maïgouin capoter maladie. Si nous ni pour travailler, faire ça nous faire pour nous toutes ni bonne santé en cette liste. Merci, merci un pile. Et puis un bon jour.
Thank you once again. That is our Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Health, Wellness and Elderly Affairs, Ms. Jenny Daniel, to give our feature address. And let's give her another round of applause, please. And at this moment, we have a panel of experts, we have a panel of partners, we have a panel of policy makers. So we'd like to engage the audience to have an informative and comprehensive question and answer session. So you can feel free to ask about the campaign, share your ideas, or even your concerns for further clarity from our panel of experts. So this is where we open the floor for a comprehensive question and answer panel session. We will allow our communications team to set up the mics, and then we will take it from there. So if you have any questions, this would be the moment to do so. Any concerns, anything that you'd like to add your voice to, please feel free to share. We have a question? Okay, one moment.
Sound 1 2 1 2. Sound 1 2.
Yes, so if you have a question, you can go ahead and introduce yourself, and then we will guide
Good
our
morning,
panel.
everyone. Teacher J from Delse Combine, that's in the South. I know we invited a range of audiences from education, you said tourism, but I wanted to know whether these workshops, some of them will be held in the South as well.
The first part of developing the strategy was visiting the schools, but we had to choose some schools in several villages, including the south and in all part of the country. So this 3 months, upcoming 3 months, will be the pilot sessions. So this is why we have chosen some schools to pilot and refine the materials. So we have suggestions and feedback. And then after, we will have a scale-up where all schools will be participating.
Any more questions? We have a question to the back.
Good morning. I'm Miss Alexander. I'm a teacher as well from the Cicero Secondary School. What will this pilot program entail, and how will the pilot program for the primary schools or the preschools differ from the secondary schools and the colleges?
Thank you for your question. We worked with several teachers and students from, I could say, all classes. So in developing this material, we wanted to know what worked for them, for the students, but for the teacher. So we were in contact and we visited the schools. We saw the infrastructure. We saw exactly what they use to teach the students. So this is why we have embedded our materials, but our strategies in Google Classroom. And this is not something that we came up with. This is what the students and the teachers suggested. One of the things that is really good also to point out, we had to sit down with, I believe, 7, 8 to 10-year-old school students, but also with adolescents, 15, 14-year-olds. So this is something that everyone can participate in. And if you have the chance, you will have the chance to see the materials that we have developed together from an early age through adolescence. They will be able to use it. And this is not something that they will just sit down in class and learn, but they will have the opportunity to go back to their community, to go back to their households and practice. For example, one of the assignments for students is go to your community, not only your house, and find someone who had dengue or Zika and chikungunya before. tell the person to, to tell the story, and then you go back to your school and share with everyone, so they can pinpoint really prevention and control strategies, and everyone can know what these diseases look like. So this is for everyone, and we also hope that in colleges they will be able to, not only inside the colleges, but in the communities overall, churches, markets, or also events, they will be able to participate. But we are now focused on primary and secondary schools.
Thank you. Do we have any more questions?
Just one question. How were the schools chosen for the oh, sorry, Melissa Sandiford, teacher at
Okay. Yes.
Melissa Sandiford,
Thank you.
teacher at the Leon Hess Comprehensive Secondary School. How were the schools chosen for the pilot? And for me, as a teacher at Leon Hess, I know that we are one of the schools who did in fact have an outbreak of, well, mosquitoes. And therefore, I wanted to know how were the schools chosen, and if we are one of the schools on the pilot. Thank you very much.
We have worked with the Ministry of Education, and we've explained everything to the representatives, because this pilot, we wanted some schools, but representing key villages and also ensuring representativeness in terms of geography. So we know the realities and we provide adequate materials for training. So I'm not able to answer this question directly, but I can assure you that we have schools from each sectors, geographic sectors in the country.
And if I may just add to what Willie said, it's something that we discussed only yesterday, and I know today 2 members from education will be trained. There's a follow-up session that begins shortly after this launch. But the reality is that we'll be looking at the spread based on participation from different schools, and then we'll be seeing how we can mop up. So our commitment, as has been mentioned, is to ensure that there's adequate coverage, looking at the geography and ensure that the message can get out to where it needs to get. So of course we've taken note of what you've stated, and we'll be happy to follow up in the session that ensues.
Okay. Do we have any more questions? I think we have another one to the back.
I'm just asking again, where exactly does it fit into the curriculum? I know it's important, but who exactly, does it fit into social studies, or where do they report? Because you said, for example, they have this assignment that, they go and ask about that story. So do they report this during social studies or homeroom period? Where exactly do they do this assignment to? Who they report it to?
Thank you. So Avriel Diaz, one of the consultants. So what we had done during the initial phases was we really wanted to talk to different teachers and principals to see what worked best for whom. So it's not that every school will do it in homeroom or in their science class. We really want to think about how it fits in properly to the curriculum that you're already providing. So that's going to be very flexible and determined by the school. We've been working with Ministry of Education to decide, which schools will be rolled out, and that will soon be to come. But we wanted to make the course as flexible as possible, so that way the modules that we've developed all together will be able to be implemented, whether it's in a science class, in a homeroom class, maybe it's in a behavioral science class. So there's different ways, and different schools are doing different types of curriculums. So we have a flexible period. And I just wanted to say that the materials were developed using a lot of the info that the kids had given us. And so there's a lot of materials that have very similar questions. And a 6-year-old could answer the question, let's say life cycle for mosquitoes. And you'll go into it and you'll have this activity, and it might be a little bit more broad, right? The kids might draw something. But that same question for a 17-year-old can be asked, and that's going to be a different level of detail. They're going to go into it. And the idea is that we're also creating mentors, and that older students will be able to help younger students. So it is a very flexible program, and it's not meant to be cookie cutter. We didn't want it to be something that was so rigid. We want it to be adaptable based on which school you're at.
Thank you. Any more questions? Last call for any more questions. Well, I do have a question. I was concerned, there was mention of religious organizations and groups, so I was concerned about, the action plan for engaging the religious organizations and groups.
During our first and second visit, thank you for the question, we had the chance to sit down with the representative of the churches, and also we came up with a plan where all the social transformation officers, but also the church's representatives, will be part of this program. So what we have developed for them is materials for community leaders. So this is something that they will be able to use not only during the church sessions, but also after or in community meetings. Let's say, for example, women committee meetings or youth committee meetings. So they will be able to, learn from the campaign, learn from the materials, but also apply the everything that they will be in contact with. One of the things that is really important also for us, and they came with talking with the members of the community, some people in the countryside, they prefer Creole messages. This is why we make sure that we have Creole languages messages, which is really tailored to the community. So the churches will be able to use the material during the sermons, during community meetings, and they will be able also to use them in the future as they want. So this will be a partnership not only with the education and the Ministry of Health, but also with the ministry, with the tourism industry. So this is why we wanted to include everyone from each part of the community of St. Lucia.
Thank you for that Thank you for that answer. Any more questions? No more questions? I may have one more question. I know the campaign would focus heavily on, no mosquito in terms of eradicating breeding sites, but Mr. Cox, as you would have mentioned, we are going into the hurricane season pretty soon, and so we would possibly see a surge in mosquitoes. Does the campaign take into consideration how do we eradicate the mosquitoes in more safer practices, maybe less use of insecticides, or I'm not sure how even fogging campaigns may affect environmentally. So was there any consideration given to that in terms of eradication campaigns once we've seen an increase or a surge in the mosquito population?
The campaign strategies are tailored to any events. Let's say that there is a surge of cases during rainy seasons or after rainy seasons, you will be able to use all the materials. One of the tools that also we came up with is the WhatsApp channels, where we can reach everyone from each community. So they will be able to register, and the Ministry of Health will be able to manage this channel and send out perfect messages, but also tailored messages based on the events, let's say during an epidemic or also during inter-epidemic phases. So this is something that the community had requested and we had came up with. So it is intended not only for the phase where we have a surge of cases, but also for plateau, I would say, phases as well. And the ministry and also other representatives from other ministries will be able also to use our materials during, let's say, contest, carnival, and everything. So this is something that is going to be useful in every communities for every event.
Yes, and just to compliment the answer, it's a very good question. I just wanted to reiterate that this is a campaign. It's not a program that's being delivered. It's a campaign. And so the way of implementing it is a bit different. I say that to bring you back to the point that we do have a very competent environmental health unit within the Ministry of Health, Wellness and Elderly Affairs. They continue to implement vector control interventions that are part of a program. And we continue to support them in the implementation of those. You asked a very good question about use of green initiatives, more novel approaches to vector control. Those are things that we're in discussions about, and at the regional level, we are developing different tools that could be used and different ways to build capacity with member states, inclusive of St. Lucia. The question about eradicating the mosquitoes, if we had that solution, we would have gone. As I said in the opening remarks, different things have been tried in different places in the world, and you have different schools of thought. Some persons are for, some persons are against. But as you know, for every, and those of you did physics, every action there's an equal and opposite reaction. Sometimes you displace something out of an ecosystem, but there's a ripple effect. So those are things that are not fully understood, and it takes a while to build the infrastructure that can execute the more sophisticated programs. So we continue to work with the environmental health team as part of the broader vector control efforts to kind of strengthen their infrastructure so that they can get to the point where they're implementing more and more novel approaches. But just to reiterate that this is a campaign which is just a subset or a microcosm of the entire program, and that there's a broad effort being rolled out in that regard that will cater to all the different things you spoke about. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Final call. Any questions from our audience? We have a question.
So,
Oh, one moment.
Yes, Al Eugene, teacher. I just heard you mention what I wanted to say. When we go into eradicating mosquito, let's say it's successful, and what is the ripple effect? Have we thought about the ripple effect in the pollinators of different plants, or do we think that maybe we might lose some species of plants or along that level of thinking?
Yeah, I must thank the Madam Chair as well as you for bringing us here. But the reality is that it's a very complicated discussion, and it requires more exchanges. But I hear what you say in terms of it might not be mosquitoes, but if you affect life and components of the ecosystem, whether you can have ripple effects, for example, with pollination and other things, right? Because it's one system. And so there is merit there, and that's why, for example, some of the insecticides that we use, we need to be careful because we might be attempting to target mosquitoes, but then they might also be affecting bees and other things that contribute to that. So what you're saying resonates, even though there's some technical things that we would like to explore in better detail and tighten that up with you. But the reality is that, as a program, as I said, there are different things that we continue to do to support. And there's a very competent unit on the ground that will continue to roll out strategies as part of a broader program. Having a campaign is strategic in that you want to have intensified efforts, tied to a common objective, and you're looking to achieve a certain target, right, within a specific time. So you say, let's go, this is what we're going to do, all hands on deck, this is important. And so that's the campaign. But just that we understand that that is not the entire program, it's just to address a specific component, and we hope that by now it has resonated that our intention is to address the public education component, but there are different campaigns. And to go to the point, our tagline has always been vector control, but we encourage persons to eliminate breeding sites. As I said, this is a different conversation. We never said, at least from the regional level, that we will eliminate or eradicate mosquitoes, whichever term you prefer. So it's been vector control because we understand that this is complex and it's not easy. And as you said, there are ripple effects as well. And we won't get into the technical bits of it here. But just that you know that our commitment has been to vector control, but eliminating breeding sites. And that way we can control and reduce the number of vectors that are present. And the ripple effect is that you have reduced transmission in the communities. All right? So that's our focus, and you'll find different messages in and around that at the moment.
Thank you very much. We did have another question. One moment, my dear. I think we had another young lady in the back. She wanted to.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Mary George from the Millet Primary School. It is more of a suggestion or more of a plea. One feature that we have every year nationally, and I can speak for the district level, not nationally really, is the schools science fair happening on a district level, national level, school levels as well. And I'm a bit not concerned, but asking whether with this campaign, recently we found a lot of the students have moved to focus on sunflies and means and ways of eliminating and reducing. And I have not seen in the recent past a focus on mosquitoes, and so I even thought that they would know more. So I'm asking whether we can get some generous assistance or support in putting in that category and under our science activities, Mosquito No More campaign category, to encourage students and schools to develop solutions towards mosquitoes if it does remain a big problem in St. Lucia, and whether we would get the funding and the support. Maybe on a national level, persons can speak to those concerns, but I can speak for my district since I coordinate the district activities.
Thank you for that question.
Thank you. That's a really great question. So the way that we've built this out is with another method called ambitious science teaching. And what that uses is really thinking about how we can critically solve problems, how students can be agents of change, and that they are scientists, not that they are in a classroom learning something from a teacher. It's that they are learning through discovery and collection of evidence and using evidence-based information to inform and back up some of the things that they're learning about, and then sharing that. So you'll see later on in the education section, we have 12 modules. And within those modules, we have different sections where students are to reflect and think about solutions in their communities. How can they think about working together to solve and address some of these prevention measures that we're talking about, and things that maybe none of us have ever thought about. And that's the kind of discovery that we've looked to really include. And again, this is based off of hearing from the kids and what they really wanted to do. A lot of the kids said they wanted to do experiments. They wanted to go out into their communities. They wanted to see how they could help their families. And so this is something that we have thought about. The other part is that we're thinking about how we can begin to integrate more visits from vector control. So a lot of the schools said that they really wanted to have more visits from vector control. Vector control is already visiting schools, but having that one-on-one interaction to see people in action, I think, is really important. And then in terms of mentoring, the idea is that each class will take these different modules, but we're really setting up a system where we can create mentorship. So older students might be able to mentor younger students, and research will be a really big component of this, because we really want students to discover, think critically, and really think about solutions. So we have been thinking about that, and I'm excited to talk more to you in the next session. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I know we have one more question to the front as well.
Yes, just to speak on what Miss said about dengue being no more. I've not heard of it. I heard of it in the news, but I find usually it's close to the hurricane season that we hear of it, because normally we have an outbreak during that time. But she also mentioned funding. And again, speaking from experience and what we have gone through at the school, it's a bit costly in terms of maintenance. Getting persons to cut the trees around the school, cleaning the guttering, etc. Right now we have persons coming in with mosquito traps that are around the school. Would the pilot schools be receiving funding to implement the different? Yeah.
That's a very good question. I don't know why I volunteered to answer it, but perhaps it's not a wise decision. But yeah, just to respond to what you said, funding, as we know, is never unlimited. That's why we celebrate the partnership that we have with the Ministry of Health, Wellness and Elderly Affairs, and we've been able to make this commitment in a collective way, in a collaborative way, that we can facilitate this consultancy. Excuse me, just to be clear, as of now, we don't have funding commitment, or committed, to do specific activities in schools outside of the public education campaign, speaking at a regional level from Carrefour. But of course, just to say that we're always on the lookout to see when new initiatives could be taken on board and could be considered, and how we can allocate funding in a strategic way. So we're happy to have these discussions. I'm not closing the door. Of course, in conversation with the members of the Ministry of Health, Wellness and Elderly Affairs, and for us to see if there's something strategic that could be taken up and that we can follow up in due course. But as of now, there is no immediate commitment, at least at the regional level, in that regard.
Okay, thank you. And this would be our last call for questions from the audience. And if we have no more questions, do we have any final remarks from our panelists? All right, thank you. So at this moment, we've heard inspiring words from our partners, including the Ministry of Health, Wellness and Elderly Affairs, the Caribbean Public Health Agency, other organizers whose support and commitment have been instrumental in bringing this campaign to life. We thank them sincerely for their unwavering dedication and partnership. The Mosquito No More campaign is more than just a slogan, it is a call to action. It reminds us that the fight against vector-borne diseases cannot be won by any one group alone. It requires the active involvement of every community, every household, and every individual. Through increased public awareness, stakeholder engagement, and community-driven solutions, we can make a real and lasting difference. Let us carry forward the messages and energy from today's launch. Let us become ambassadors for this education campaign and educate our families, neighbors, and friends, and support ongoing public health efforts. Each small action, when multiplied across our communities, brings us closer to a St. Lucia where vector-borne diseases are no longer a threat. I would also like to thank our organizers, our speakers, and the staff of the Bellevue Hotel for their hard work in making this event a success. Your efforts are deeply appreciated. As we leave here today, let us do so with renewed determination, knowing that together we can realize our goal of a mosquito-free St. Lucia. Thank you once again for your presence, your partnership, and your passion. Let's make Mosquito No More a reality for all. Thank you very much.